What are you hearing about any possible reaction to these rapidly declining oil prices?
I think everyone is watching for what OPEC's reaction is going to be. There's been a big shift in terms of their language and what they're saying around oil prices and oil policy, particularly since the US has granted waivers to big buyers of Iranian oil. I don't think the Saudis even expected them to be so widespread, and the market is looking like it's going to be a bit more oversupplied than people thought. Yesterday, you had Khalid al-Faleh, the energy minister of Saudi Arabia, saying that their analysis shows that you could need to cut 1 million barrels a day. There's a big question about whether or not they can get their Russian allies on board. Russian producers and people familiar with their spending plans have been telling us at the FT that actually they want to increase supply. So there's a question over, can they get a deal before next month's big meeting of ministers in Vienna?
Well, let's talk about that, Anjli, because I'm sure you'll be there. I think we'll be there. How important do you think that is? How much mojo, how much power does OPEC actually have right now?
They're extremely concerned about what they're seeing with the price falls at the moment. Remember, particularly Saudi Arabia needs higher oil prices to fund these big social and economic reforms. And they're also eyeing a potential slowdown in the global economy. They're worried that, currency crises in emerging markets, the fact that higher oil prices have also hit demand for their main resource, particularly countries such as India, extremely price sensitive to this stuff. And they're worried that in the end, they're going to end up suffering. So, yes, they probably need to rein back some of their supply. Remember, it was in June that they decided they would relax some of the supply curbs. And now, within just one session between the last big meeting and the upcoming one, they may need to reverse tack again.
Yeah, and they've got this hedge, of course, with our president. President Trump saying, basically increase supply, pump more oil. The Saudis effectively did. And now here's where we are. I mean, I guess we're going to have to flip the script again and say, hey, stop. Because the reality is this. Lower gas prices are great for the American consumer. They are not good for highly levered oil and gas companies in Texas and North Dakota who have a lot of debt outstanding.
So actually last night even, Donald Trump came out on Twitter again and said, I hope that Saudi Arabia and other OPEC producers don't decide to rein in their production. But if you were Saudi Arabia right now, you'd probably be feeling a little bit like the US had just stabbed you in the back. The US had promised big sweeping sanctions on Iran, which is the arch rival of the kingdom. And in the end, it was a bit more lukewarm than people realized. And so I wonder how quickly or how much OPEC producers this time are going to react to Donald Trump's tweets and the pressure he's been putting them under. Remember, this was what actually took producers into the sort of June action because they were under a lot of pressure from the US. And now that midterms are over, there's a question over how much are other producers going to be listening to Donald Trump?